Hello, I'm Liz Van Vliet, and welcome to the Assist with Impact podcast. Join me as I explore the competencies and capabilities that allow you to assist with impact. I'll be sharing practical tips, strategies, and insights that will help you move beyond what I call the order taker zone and be that little hinge that can swing big doors. If you're ready to be more proactive and have more impact in your role, then this is the place for you. Let's get started with the episode. Well, hello, lovely listeners. Welcome back to episode 157 of the Assist with Impact podcast. Previously being indispensable, I am going to keep saying that just for a little while longer so people who are new will understand that the two are connected. And you're probably thinking, but Liz, we already know that. That's why we're listening. Anyway, don't question my wisdom, people. Don't question it. I know what I'm doing. Actually, I don't. Anyway, moving right along. This is part 2 in my 3-parter where I am sharing with you some ways of upping your effectiveness when it comes to your emails and your email strategies. So this second episode in my little 3-part series is where I'm going to share with you something that I read about in Harvard Business Review. It's a technique called BLUF, bottom line up front. So let me tell you all about it. So a BLUF, bottom line up front, is a framework where the essential information is placed at the beginning of the text, your email text, rather than the end. The BLUF framework makes you more credible. You will sound more crisp and confident, and that's what I want for you. It sends a powerful signal that you know your stuff when you use this technique. So, BLUF, bottom line up front, it's originally a military communications technique. And it's where the conclusion, in other words, the most vital information and actions, is placed right at the start. So from what I've read, they talk about the fact that the format has been used in the military and is valued for 2 reasons. First, the reader can leave the email at any point and understand it, even if they don't have all the details. And secondly, it conducts the reader through the details of the story. So it's the idea of having your bottom line up front that stands out, that is formatted differently. So you might use, you might center it in the email copy. You might put it in, bold, for example. But it's your bottom line up front, and then you continue on to then go into the detail that relates to that, that particular email. So again, this is all about effectiveness. And effective writing is understood easily and quickly. And so the key, and what I like about this approach, is that it means that you are not going to be frustrating your exec, your manager, or other stakeholders by hiding the main point. So it's that expression that you might have heard in movies or TV shows about don't bury the lead. Put the bottom line up front and your stakeholders will appreciate it. So as I said, I read about this approach in this HBR article, Harvard Business Review article, entitled How to Write Email with Military Precision. And I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes for you if you want to go and have a look at it. But just let me give you quote that article. So in the article it says, military professionals lead their emails with a short staccato statement known as the BLUF. Yes, being the military, there is an acronym for everything. Well, maybe I should have been in the military because I love acronyms too. So it declares the purpose of the email and the action required. The BLUF should quickly answer the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. An effective BLUF distills the most important information for the reader. It helps readers quickly digest the announcement, decision, new procedure, whatever it is. That's not a quote, that's me riffing. They go on to say the reader doesn't necessarily want to know all the background information that led to the decision. He or she likely wants to know, how does this email affect me? And the BLUF should answer this question every time. So, you know that what I want for you is to be able to assist with impact. I want you to be able to spend more time in that linchpin zone, being more effective. Well, being effective means you're persuasive, and persuasive communicators know the power of stating their bottom line up front. They state the main point immediately, and then they back it up with the necessary evidence. So this is a habit that you're going to be developing that's going to result in you being more likely to be heard, understood, and believed. So this credibility aspect. So there's 3 parts to getting a solid BLUF. So in other words, this is again like what we talked about in the last episode about thinking about your subject, the way you're expressing your subject lines in your email subject. This is something that is going to take proactivity. You're going to need to be thinking proactively one step ahead in order to be able to get to that solid bottom line up front. So the first thing you're going to need to do is do your homework. This is the part where there are no shortcuts, unfortunately. You've got to understand the whole picture from top to bottom in order to be able to do an effective job of synthesizing the information that you're needing to convey into a BLUF, a bottom line up front. So it just reinforces the importance of investing the time and energy in those knowing pillars that I talk about, knowing your organisation and knowing your boss in particular, so that you have the insight and the understanding that you can then use to craft these bottom line upfront statements. The second part about it is being thorough with your inputs. And so that's just an extension of this idea that there are no shortcuts. Being effective is about being proactive, is about being, putting the work in and not being reactive, not just being an order taker. So your analysis process has got to be thorough. Your decision-making and critical thinking needs to be there, because that's how you're going to ensure that you're asking all of the important questions, making sure that you're clear with the output of what you're analysing. So in order to even begin to construct this BLUF, you need to understand. So this is about the understanding and the insight. You need to understand the, critical success factors, risks, assumptions, and, on and on it goes. But it's about having that knowledge and insight into what's happening, who's involved, and why it's important. And that leads us to the third part, because it's about understanding your stakeholders. So it's so critical for you to be able to do this. It requires you to understand what is important to your stakeholders. So if you're crafting an email to your exec, then you need to have that knowledge, but you also need to have the knowledge of them and their communication style, and be able to adapt your style of writing to be able to hit their pressure points head on. So bottom line is that if you're going to use this BLUF method, you need to understand and have insight. And I know that can feel challenging, and it's about, as I always say, it's about me sharing this idea with you, which I absolutely love, but then saying to you, I'm all about progress, not perfection. So if all you do in terms of taking on board this idea of a BLUF is just to adapt the way you're emailing so that you format your emails differently and you start with some form of bottom line up front in a style that makes it stand out from the rest of your text, then you're going to be moving towards that effectiveness that I'm talking about. So that's what I wanted to share with you, this idea of a BLUF, bottom line up front, in this episode. And I'd love you to tell me what you think of this, whether you think that it's even remotely doable. But, if we just distill it down to that way of formatting the key message in your email, the key action, what you require, or why this email is important, and put that in a format that in a way that makes it stand out, so that even if the reader stops reading, they're getting the most important information up front. That's what I want you to take away. So thanks for listening, and come back for the next episode, all about my third tip for upping your effectiveness when it comes to email. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see the show notes, head over to my website. It would be great if you haven't already done so. If you enjoyed the show, if you could kindly go to iTunes and leave a review. It helps other people find the show. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.